Shabbat Shalom. This summer, I had been looking forward to going to Cape May with Adi, as we always do every summer. This summer, my daughter Rivka was supposed to have gone to Camp Ramah in the Poconos for the last time. This summer, many of us were also planning to watch the Summer Olympics on TV. But in March, as the COVID-19 pandemic raged throughout the world, the International Olympic Committee announced that the Tokyo 2020 Summer Games would be postponed until 2021. Well, since there aren't any Olympic Games to follow this summer, I thought I would take a trip down memory lane back to the Summer Games of 2008. Admittedly, that was one of the only Summer Olympics that I watched so closely, because I, like many Americans, was rooting for some of our American athletes, including Michael Phelps and the Team USA girls gymnastics team. The Olympic Games in Beijing 2008 had one of the most hotly anticipated women's gymnastics competitions. Individually, it was all about Shawn Johnson and Nastia Liukin. In the team competition, all eyes were on the US and China. For some, the most memorable moment of the 2008 Olympic Games was Michael Phelps receiving his 11th gold medal, breaking Mark Spitz's 7 gold medal record. But for others, the most memorable moment was when Alicia Sacramoni's foot slipped off the balance beam during her gymnastics routine, a mistake that was replayed over and over again on television, as well as the horrified look on Alicia's face as she tried in vain to hold back her tears. And to make matters worse, not only for Alicia, but for Team USA's girls gymnastics team standing in the competition as well, Alicia also made a mistake during her floor routine, another opportunity for continuous replays of her mistakes. No one is perfect. Yet in the world of the Olympics, perfection is the desired state of being, and anything less than perfect is considered, quite frankly, not good enough. But in the real world, less than perfect is one of the inescapable realities of human life. We all make mistakes. Yet, in our own lives, we tend to deny our mistakes and failures in a way that is diametrically opposed to the way the TV cameras over-focused on Alicia Sacramoni's mistakes in the summer of 2008. Of course, we quickly notice when other people deny their mistakes or rationalize them away, and we quickly notice when others cover up their wrongdoings by trying to convince themselves and others that these wrongdoings never really happened. We're quick to recognize this deception in others. Sometimes we label this behavior in others as defensive. When politicians do this, we consider this defensiveness cagey, and perhaps reason enough not to vote for them. But in our own cases, we are often so desperate to believe in our own alibis, and we are often so eager to deny any flaws of our making. In this week's Torah portion, Va-Etchanan, Moshe can serve as a role model for us. While he might magnify some of his accomplishments, which is understandable given that this is his farewell speech to the people before his death, he doesn't deny his human failings. Moshe seems to realize that hiding one's own errors only makes them appear worse. Va-Etchanan el Hashem ba'et hahi lemor. The Parsha begins with these words, I pleaded with God at that time, saying, in the Midrash Sifrei Devarim, the rabbis noticed that one word in this pasuk, in this verse, doesn't add anything specific to the sentence. It's superfluous. The word lemor, saying. And the rabbis in the Midrash interpret this word to mean that Moshe's words include more than what the Torah reveals in the written text. According to this Midrash, Moshe made an additional plea, one that was unrecorded in the written Torah, but it made its way to the oral Torah. And this is what Moshe said to God in the Midrash. Ribono shel olam, Master of the universe, let any transgressions that I have committed be recorded against me, so that people will not say, Moshe seems to have falsified the Torah, or Moshe said something that he wasn't commanded to say. So, says the Midrash, Moshe then goes on to enumerate the list of particular mistakes he committed for which he was prohibited from entering the land of Canaan. The rabbis compare the request of Moshe to that made by a woman aristocrat who gathered figs during the Shemitah, the sabbatical year. Since such harvesting violates biblical law, the king ordered her to march through the center of town so that people would see her humiliation and would consequently avoid breaking the law themselves. And as she began her march, she turned to the king and asked that her particular sin be publicly announced so that no one would accuse her of committing a more serious crime, such as murder or sexual immorality. Similarly, Moshe knew that later generations would wonder why he wasn't permitted to enter the Promised Land. If specific reasons weren't given, we might assume that his transgression was far more severe than it actually was. So to protect his own reputation, Moshe insisted on admitting his mistakes. Moshe's stern integrity is quite awe-inspiring. He taught, through his own example, the importance of fessing up, of owning up to our mistakes. By openly admitting his mistakes, Moshe took the first essential step towards transcending his imperfections. Now, if Moshe could make mistakes, Moshe Rabbeinu, how can we not? And if Moshe was not ashamed to admit his errors, then we need not be either. Mistakes are not weights that must be shouldered forever in guilt or in silence. Our mistakes possess us only as long as we allow them to claim our core. By acknowledging the error of our ways, we liberate ourselves for the challenges and growth yet to come. Ken Yiratzon. Shabbat Shalom.